It is said that age is just a number, but in my view, when it comes to health, age is not just a number, because there are some diseases and conditions that we might acquire as we get old. And this brings us to our topic of discussion tonight on Health Nuggets, where we will be looking at mental health in older persons. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Aida Muzati. As I always say, your health matters, and Health Nuggets starts now. Let's first start by looking at the numbers as far as mental health and older persons is concerned, not just in Kenya, but worldwide. Mental health and well-being are as important in older age as at any other time of life. According to the World Health Organization, between the year 2015 and the year 2050, the proportion of the world's population over 60 years will nearly double from 12% to 22%. Mental and neurological disorders among older adults accounts for 6.6% of the total disability for this age group. Approximately 15% of adults aged 60 and over suffer from a mental disorder. According to the Kenya Mental Health Policy, the year 2015 to 2030, mental disorder cases in Kenya continue to rise rapidly. Estimates point that 20 to 25% of outpatients seeking primary health care present symptoms of mental illness at any one time, and up to 40% of inpatients in health facilities suffer from mental conditions. While government statistics indicate that at least 1 in every 4 Kenyans suffer from a mental illness at one point in their lives, depression being the most common. The most common mental health issues in the elderly include dementia, depression, anxiety, insomnia, grief, psychosis, isolation, cognitive problems, and other behavioral issues, depression being termed as the most common. Well, after looking at the mental health in older persons statistics, that is worldwide as well as in Kenya, so we are now going to hear from an expert, so just get the point of view of an expert, and we are coming to you from Ponka Mental Health Clinic, and joining me is Dr. Eunice Menja. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante sana. Karibu kwetu at Ponka Mental Health Clinic. Yes, you're most welcome.
All right, thank you so much. Now, when we are looking at okay, first, let me just give you an opportunity to tell us what exactly do you do at your clinic, very briefly.
So we have, actually, this is a U.S. diaspora initiative. So I just came back from the U.S. and I found that we have a lot of mental health issues. So we are trying to bridge the gap by providing actually mental health wellness for every, all ages. Including children, married couples, youth, and people with disabilities, and especially the older people, as well as addiction, patients. Yes.
Now, when we are talking of mental health issues in older persons, yes, what would you say are the most common mental health issues in this age group?
Yes, the most common is, especially looking at it from a psychology point of view. I've taught a lot of psychology in the US as a professor, and I've also done a lot of work with the elderly people because I've done human development and family science. What we have found out, especially in the US, is that people have developed dementia. I don't know if you know about that. So dementia is actually, I can give you a scenario of, a car. So we have many cars, and then we have different models, like a Toyota and then Honda. So the disease that is the dementia is the umbrella of all the diseases, especially memory diseases. Alzheimer's is the one that is very common. It has also been found to be affecting older people here in Kenya. I have couple of friends that are actually taking care of their elderly or their older parents who are who are losing memory. So we call it is a disease that make people to lose memory. So what happens in the brain, it's actually your brain continues to shrink. Once you get that disease, the neurons start to reduce even production, and so people forget their daily tasks. For example, even folding clothes, or even starting a car, or even starting a fire. And also they actually have problems sleeping, and they have even cognitively, they start to even forget their own names and even where they came from and things like that. So we have found that to be very, very common. Of course, there are other mental health issues like depression, insomnia, that is lack of sleep, especially when you're older. Things like, paranoia, people become very paranoid, they start to hallucinate. All those are mental health issues that are impacting older people. So what we have found in dementia is that if you have ever had something like a heart disease or stroke, you're more likely to actually develop that disease. So what we're trying to do is actually to bring this help to the family members who find themselves in caregiving for such people who have those type of disorders. Yes.
All right. Now you've just mentioned over there, let me say, triggers of
Yes.
or previous events that might lead to probably these conditions. Would you say it's for all the mental health issues, including probably what you've mentioned, that is depression and dementia, or is it just for specific mental health problems?
So some of the triggers, like what I talked about, you having maybe a disease like a heart disease or stroke, it actually increases the chances of you getting the illness. But even the research that has been done, they haven't really given the main factors or the major factors that actually contribute to that disease. But what they have found out is that people who have had those conditions, stress is definitely something that we have been looking at, especially when you're teaching psychology, when you know how the brain works. There are things like, a place in the brain that is called hippocampus. It is responsible for the memory, and because the memory is the one that is being impacted, that means the hippocampus in the brain of an elder person is continues to deteriorate. Any person that is impacted by trauma or stress, their hippocampus is impacted, because trauma impacts everyone. Even a child can forget, even an adult can forget, and that's why most of the times you hear that when women have become pregnant, they start to forget things. But because they are younger and they continue to do the daily activities that they know how to do, they actually exercise their memory. But what happens for an older person, because it's part of the aging process, which is normal. Dementia is not normal. It's one of those abnormal disorders that now happen to people. So the other factors that even lack of exercise, even the diet, the type of diet that people eat, we are talking about millions of people having been impacted by dementia in the US, and even in the UK. There are many millions of people that have been diagnosed with that disease. So what you might find here in Kenya is that maybe because of lack of data and lack of research being done on our older population, we really don't understand dementia yet. But because I've been trained in the US, I know that these conditions are there, and I've also seen some of my friends taking care of their parents who are actually going through the same. So we might not hear the diagnosis per se. You might hear somebody say, oh, my grandmother is old, she doesn't remember anything. But those are also some categories of dementia. Yes.
Okay, now let's just take it back a little bit by looking at what age group are we talking about? And also, what you've just mentioned of memory.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the telltale signs, or just other telltale signs that people can just look at and know that things are probably not okay with my grandma or my elder parent?
Yes, so you asked me 2 questions about the age onset. It used to be older people, but now because of the lifestyle that people are living today, the type of food that we are eating, the onset is actually earlier. So you will even find that people at 50s, late 50s, are actually starting to develop that condition. Also, all, you know, those years, especially in America, because this is where most of the research has been done on dementia, people never used to live that long. But because of technology and, you know, a lot of research on medical area, people are living longer. So there are more people that are impacted. We might not be able to say specifically what age, but once you hit that age of, you know, the 50s, and you started to age, because that is, you know, the normal memory goes away. But now the dementia, what it does is that some of the symptoms that you might watch for, especially if you have an older parent, I talked about memory. Things like when, you know, when somebody forgets where to put the kiberiti, they start putting it in the fridge. That is actually it's a very serious memory loss. So they are forgetting even daily tasks, like how to do the normal things that you were able to do. You know, like maybe you were drinking with a cup, and then when it is dirty, you put it in the sink, and you find that they'll take it to the bathroom or they take it to the closet. That is actually it's a symptom to tell you, something is going on with my loved one's memory. Other things, like they become very agitated, they are not able to stay with people because of how they have, you know, their cognition, the thinking capacity is actually also deteriorating. So they don't reason a lot. And a lot of times you'll find out that many people are looking for house, you know, like maybe house help, like a maid or a house girl who goes to sit with them. But because they are not trained about this disease, they will actually collide a lot. They don't understand what is going on. They will think that this person is undermining them, but they are not reasoning. They start reasoning like children. Another thing is that they lose sleep. So most of the times they are very tired because they are not sleeping. So, you know, most of, like during the night, they are awake all the time. They have hallucinations, you know, paranoia, as in terms of they'll start thinking that somebody is following them, somebody is taking away their things. So they are always fighting with their loved ones, and people get scared because if you're a house girl and you're employed to take care of your parent, and they start saying that you're stealing their money just because it's their imagination, they don't really reason like a normal person. So those are some of the symptoms. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. And dear viewers, as I mentioned earlier, we are coming to you from Poncam Mental Health Clinic, and we're just looking at the issues around the elderly as far as their mental health is concerned. We've looked at a number of issues, that is depression as well as dementia, among other mental health issues. So remember, you can still send in your comments or questions via our SMS number, that is 0111220044. Remember, we are also coming to you live on Facebook as well as YouTube, that is KAK TV Kenya. So we take a very short break. When we come back, we are coming with good news. So we'll be sharing, or Dr. Amenja will just be sharing with us what are some of the solutions that we can probably apply as far as the issues of mental health in older persons are. So we take a very short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Health Nuggets, and today we are looking at mental health issues in older persons. I'm still with Dr. Eunice Menja, and as I promised, we are now going to look at the solutions as well as the diagnosis of now the mental health issues in older persons. So, Dr. you can take it up. Okay. Just share with us probably how do you diagnose, or how do you now come up with a conclusion that someone has probably, let me say, dementia or depression, as you mentioned.
Yeah, so this is actually a book that have all the mental disorders, and it includes actually dementia. So what we usually do, it's called Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. So when a client comes here, like when you bring your loved one here, what we do is we do an assessment. So that assessment, we're actually able to use all the symptoms that you give us, like the history, you know, like some of the behavior that you are seeing. So we use that actually to make a conclusion that your loved one has dementia. And once we make sure that is what we are going to be dealing with, now we design like therapeutic activities for them to do. So if your client is here for therapy, as I said, dementia actually makes you forget everything that you knew. It's like a child that is learning how to walk, is a child that is learning how to even, you know, say hi, because it actually gets to that stage where somebody has to be taken care of, like they are 100% dependent on other people. So that we can if you come here early enough, after you have actually just noticed the onset of those symptoms, we can be able to slow down the progression. We don't have a cure. There's no cure that has actually been, provided. Even in the US, they just use supplements and other medication for depression and stress. But for our activities, for example, you will be surprised that people even forget to close something like this. So what you do with the client is just provide something as simple as a bottle, and you actually just place it to them, and you're talking to them, you're trying to actually reteach them how to do some of these things if they have forgotten. And if they have not forgotten, what we do is that we also provide other things like, just memory games that they do. This is also actually a stress ball, and I can give it to you, and I'll probably tell you, maybe point to you and tell you to answer any question that you can see. And so you're talking to this person to help exercise their memory. When you keep your loved one in the house and actually Alzheimer's is progressing, you're not helping them. You have to provide this type of therapeutic activities for them. Sometimes it might be a person that actually used to use a belt and now they don't know how to use it again. So you might have to even reteach them. So you give them just simple tools like this one, and actually even demonstrate to them what to do, because we don't want them to be completely dependent. The more they stay without doing anything and you're doing everything for them, you're actually helping in deterioration of those neurons that we talked about. Remember that on the neurons, there are plaques. It's the protein that is usually produced in the brain. It is covering those neurons, and the more it covers, the more your memory goes away. And we know that because, from the psychology point of view, if you lose your memory, you are not able to do anything. So we'll ask, especially if somebody who used to be a teacher, we actually provide things for them, even to write. We can tell them even to teach a lesson here in the clinic. The other things just like this to help exercise their memory. So you might ask them to actually push all of them to the outside, and you might ask them to push all of them to the inside. These are just ways of giving therapy to the brain and also to their hands. The whole entire body needs to be provided with therapy, because as the brain slows down on how it works, they might even forget to move their arms, their feet. Sometimes when the disease has really progressed, people don't even leave the bed. So those are some of the things that we do here. We have things like this cube. You can tell them to arrange the colors and things like that. So we have a lot of other things, even folding clothes. We might have clothes that have been washed, and we just leave them there and we tell them to fold. If they don't know how to do it, we demonstrate, or we do with them. Sometimes you might actually have to hold the client's hand to show them how it is done. If it's something like combing their hair, if it's a woman and they have hair that they usually comb, we help them comb it, things like that. So we're just giving them exercises to keep their brain working, because as well as also training the caregivers. If we have most of the times we will have a client that is dropped off by maybe an older son, their son, and maybe a house help comes here. So we'll be working with not just the client, but also their aide. If they have a caregiver at home, we teach them how to actually relate with these people, and we equip them with the tools that they need so that they can help them even at home, because we don't want them to be brain dead, because that's definitely what happens at the end. And dementia is killing a lot of people because people don't know how to deal with it. Once you take your loved one maybe to an elderly home place and they are not provided with those activities, the more your brain the more your brain dies, the more your actually entire body is going to be no longer in existence.
Oh, and this I think this is great, because most of the tools that you're showing, they're actually easily accessible even at home.
Yes.
Now, let's say I've come here, or I've come at your clinic.
Yeah.
How long would you say this will take? Let me say, in terms of period for now this elderly person to start seeing improvements, how long will it take?
So it depends on how long the disease has progressed. Most of the times, as I said, dementia is really connected with a lot of grief and trauma. A lot of times you see that somebody who comes here, maybe it's somebody who has lost various loved ones, and they have not dealt with grief. So we have to also screen for other conditions like depression, things like just major stress disorder and things like that. So once we are working with you, depending on what other conditions that you have, your sessions might be 5, your sessions might be 10, depending on the progression of the disease as well. So those are the things that we do. And also, if you want your caregiver to be trained, so that you don't have to take your loved one to a home, you can actually work with them at home. So these toys, as you say, they are easily available. Some of them actually, like these ones, came all the way from the US. So and I know that there are some, there are some toy shops that you'll find some of these tools. And we can also prescribed. We help you to also design a meal program, an exercise program for your loved one, because that is also very, very important. Actually, exercise is one of the things that has been found to slow down any type of memory loss. Even for yourself, if you find yourself forgetting and you exercise a lot and you eat healthy, is actually a very good way of just strengthening your cognition ability. Yes.
Okay, now you've talked of probably the exercises to do, as well as the tools to use just to jog our memory.
Yes.
You've also talked of eating well. I know that you're not a nutrition,
yes.
but now just from where you sit, what would you say probably are some of the healthy foods that can help, let me say, just jog someone's memory?
We need to go back to our old authentic food that our grandmothers used to eat. My grandmother lived over 100 years, and she had a very, very sharp memory. I'm not saying that is the, all she ate was, is the only food that is, but I know that people are now starting to go back to their traditional foods, like, eating domas and, guashes instead of bread in the morning, making sure that you're not using a lot of oil to cook. Eating a lot of vegetables. We know that there are people who drink moringa every day. Now I'm adopting moringa actually now that I'm in Kenya. Drinking those type of, just the traditional food that we used to eat. The processed food, unfortunately, it is very bad, not just to our memory, not just to our brain, but also to our physical health. We know that it can also impact how your heart is working, diabetes, things like that. But we do know that the better you eat, the stronger your memory is gonna be, even your mental health as well. Yes.
Now, talking of exercises, I know someone at home could be wondering, how can probably 60-year-old, how can they work out?
Exercise is very, very important. Even just throwing a ball to an older person like that, let me throw this ball to you. Just those type of exercises, they are very, very important, because again, your brain is sending messages to those parts that are not normally moving when you're an older person. So you'll find that even in a place like this, you'll have somewhere that they can even throw balls or even just play things like chess. That is exercise. It's exercising the mental, and it's also exercising the body as well. We have stairs here, like in our building. You can take that person down the stairs even when you're supporting them. Even walking around in the house, walking, to church, rather than all the time driving and things like that. They're very important. Go with them to the store, even if they forget things, but even seeing people also, it's part of exercising, because you remember that the brain gets messages from our senses, from the touch, from the seeing, from the hearing, listening to that music and those things like that. Yeah, you are exercising your brain. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Maybe you can just share with our viewers what will be your parting shot as far as our mental health in older persons is concerned.
So I want to say that, we love our loved ones, and we love their wisdom, and it hurts when, when you see your loved one, losing their memory. Sometimes they even forget your name and you are their child. So I would really want us to advocate for our elderly people, and making sure that even the type of stresses that they are going through, we reduce them, because a lot of times our older people, especially our parents, they stress a lot because of our behavior as their children. If you're going through addiction and things like that, and you need help, come here and get help, and so that you can also help reduce some of the stress that is actually impacting your parents' mental health. But also come to our clinic. We are here. We are going to provide you our phone numbers, so that you can come and visit us and get the help that you need, so that you can have a very healthy society. Yes.
All right. I love the healthier society
Yes.
bit of it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, Daktari, and thank you for sharing that very informative, let me say, conversation with our
Yes.
audience tonight.
Yes, and I forgot something. Maybe I should say, if you have a loved one and you don't have maybe the resources actually to bring them to a clinic, try to help them to do some of these things at home. They don't have to be at the clinic to do them, but we know that things like reminders, even, if you have a loved one that takes medication, they might forget to take that medication and it might actually impact their health more. So maybe have some reminders in the house, call on their phone and things like that, and even a to-do list. Sometimes they need to be written down for what they need to do. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. And dear viewer, if you're just joining us on Health Nuggets tonight, remember we were looking at mental health in older persons. Therefore, if you're just joining us, you're not too late, because you can always find the recording of our shows on all our social media pages, that is Facebook as well as YouTube at CAC TV Kenya. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. We'll be definitely very glad to be responding to them in the comment section down below. So my name is Aida Munzatsi. Remember, we've looked at the solutions as well, not just stating the problems to you, but with the help of Dr. Menja, we've looked at the solutions as well. Once again, my name is Aida Munzatsi, and as I always say, your health matters.